on all our affiliates and around the globe at citinewsroom.com. In the Upper West region, this is Tupani Radio 88.5. In Nadoli, Jirapa 96.1 FM. Of course, in Jirapa. In the Upper East region, this is a Recast 92.1 FM at Bongo Namu. In the Northern region, North Star Radio 92.1. In Tamale in the Northeast, this is Nobia 98.1 FM at Narilugu. Also, this is Beach 105.5 FM in Takrad in the Western region, and the Ashanti region Focus 94.3 FM on KNUST campus in Kumasi, and Orange 107.9 FM in Kumasi. In the Volta region, this is Sela 97.1 FM in Dabala, and Holy 98.5 FM at Aflao. In the Savannah region, Kasha 99.5 FM in Damangu. Your comments are welcome via WhatsApp line 0549 986 996. You can follow me on X at Selom Adunu. The hashtag, as always, is Citi Newsroom. Hawa gives us our very first story.
The minority in Parliament has strongly criticized the Mahama-led government for its 2.7 billion cedis budget allocation for the Office of Government Machinery in 2025. Addressing the press earlier today, the Member of Parliament for Itua East, Abna Osei Asari, expressed concerns over what the caucus describes as a drastic rise in the budget allocation. Abna Osei Asari indicated that this increase is particularly concerning given that some agencies have been removed from the Office of Government Machinery's purview.
During the MPP era, Office of Government Machinery had a budget for compensation of 326 million Ghana cedis. And that included the development authorities, included a scholarship secretariat, and a couple of other agencies, Maslock, SIGA, and the others. But here we are in 2025. When you look at the expenditure numbers, the compensation under OGM is 2.7 billion Ghana cedis. From 326 of a perceived overblown government to a lead government of 2.7 billion Ghana cedis, where they have also taken away some of these agencies. Now, SIGA is no more under Office of Government Machinery, it's under Ministry of Finance. Internal Audit Agency is no more under OGM, it's under Ministry of Finance. Scholarship Secretariat is no more under OGM, it's under Ministry of Youth and Development. There are quite a number of these agencies that were under OGM in 2024 that have been scrapped, the development authorities. Yet still, you see a budget of 2.7 billion Ghana cedis for compensation alone. They will say that they have added Ministry of National Security. National Security in 2014 compensations budget was 1.28 billion. So assuming you add 10%, give or take, and then let's say go to 1.4 billion Ghana cedis for national security, and you add the 326 that existed in 2024, it comes to about 1.7 billion Ghana cedis. So there's a clear difference of 1 billion Ghana cedis added to a lean government's compensation. Ladies and gentlemen, we need answers. That is why I say that the budget lacks credibility, and so they should come again.
Abna Osei Asari is MP for Itua East. Now, still on that press conference, the minority has criticized the 2025 budget presented by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasio Latofosin, describing it as misleading. Addressing journalists, the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, argued that the 49.2 billion cedis expenditure claim added to the fiscal data by the Finance Minister was erroneous and deliberately framed to paint the Akufo-Addo administration in a bad light.
Just lifting a certain stock of expenditure claims of 49.2 billion Ghana cedis and inserting it into the fiscal frame to create an impression as though all those claims were generated in 2024. We must also note that our fiscal framework focuses on central government operations. Therefore, claims which have not been properly audited can introduce many elements of general government, which is what we think has happened. A classic example is the Comptroller and Accountant General's final accounts, which is one of the sources of information for the fiscal framework, but is based on general government accounting. So if you take the information from it on the face value and plug it into the fiscal framework, You will be reporting on two very distinct items.
The group also asserted that the 24-hour economy policy of the Mahama government cannot be realized this year.
It means no money is to be voted for it. So Ghanaians will have to wait at least until 2026 if we are lucky to have any hope of seeing how this campaign slogan translates into jobs. NDC, as you know, campaigned on 24-hour economy, and yet they are in no hurry to deliver on it. NPP campaigned in 2016 on free senior high school, and it was delivered in Akufo-Addo's first budget of 2017. Still on our record performance, not only were the trade balances brought from deficits under President Mohammed's first term to surpluses under Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, but our capacity to withstand shocks and other external vulnerabilities improved significantly, with a record gross international reserve of $8.9 billion.
That was the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament and former Finance Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam.
Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM. Let's speak to one of the speakers at the press conference today, Dr. Gideon Boako, Member of Parliament for Tano North, on the ticket of the MPP. Hello, good evening, sir. Welcome to Eyewitness News. You took a particular interest in the debt you say the Mahama administration was accruing. Can you explain to us what you mean by saying that if we do not take care, the Mahama administration could exceed 200 billion cedis in debt from borrowing only from the domestic market? That is, if we do not put brakes on the rate at which they are going. What exactly did you mean by that? Government is always borrowing from the domestic market. What is different this time around? Hello, Dr. Wako.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So, if you got my question, kindly let's hear you.
Can you repeat?
Yes, I'm saying that you took particular issue with the debt accruing from the domestic front, borrowing from the treasury market, etc. And you even cautioned that if we do not take care, we may hit 200 billion in no time. What is different about how this particular government is borrowing from the treasury market?
Thank you very much. I think it stems from the figures we are seeing as published on the Bank of Ghana website, indicating the volumes of auctions the government procures or accepts every week from the treasury market. From January 10th, effectively, because government was only on the 7th. So date, as at last Friday, that the government went to the auction market last time, this government had borrowed 73 billion cedis from the treasury market. Now, if you take it as this is more or less 2 months borrowing, and you want to stretch it to 12 months, if 72 billion cedis is borrowed in 2 months, then obviously it stands to reason that if this trend continues for the next 10 months to add up to 12 months, we will be doing more than 200 billion cedis by the end of the year, which is quite strange because we do not say that borrowing is bad. If government has genuine reasons to borrow to finance critical expenditure and make commitments to some interest payments on debt, that's fine. But there's a government that talks so much about borrowing when President Akufo-Addo was in power. And it is strange in the sense that in 2017, when President Akufo-Addo assumed office, there were debts to be paid. In fact, you remember the road fund had been collateralized in 2016 by the NDC government for 1.2 billion cedis from a facility from UBA at an interest rate of 31%. So even when President Akufo-Addo came in 2017, any drop from Ghanaian taxes into the road fund was consumed by UBA because it had been collateralized. There was not a single cedi for road construction. The government did not resort to this astronomical levels of borrowing. For the whole year of 2017, 12 months, President Akufo-Addo's government did not borrow more than 15 billion cedis. Here we are today with a government that campaigned so much on borrowing and 2 months, it has borrowed 73 billion cedis. That is quite strange. That is an indication I put out. And tomorrow, government has signaled that it is going to the treasury market and they're going to borrow additional 6 billion cedis tomorrow. If you add that, what is already borrowed, you will be hitting 80 billion cedis.
Is it not because government, for now, has no real access to any other market to get from? So all it has is to borrow from a domestic market. Yes, you mentioned 2017. 2017, we had access to the bond market, etc. I recall that in the first few months of your government, we got some money from Franklin Templeton and a few other places, $2.25 billion or so dollars. But this government doesn't have access to those sources. Would that not explain why they are solely depending on domestic sources?
It is not true that the bond market is closed on government. That cannot be true. There's still an active bond market that the government can enter into. The government wants to raise funds from the bond market. It is their own doing and their own words that is not making the long end of the yield curve market attractive to investors. Remember, the day after the finance minister read the budget, Bloomberg reported that investors reacted negatively to Ghanaian bonds, and that after the finance minister's budget, Ghana bonds began to trade at the bottom. What is happening? It is their own words that is giving them away. There's an active bond market even in this country. The finance minister has deliberately stifled the active bond market because he wants to push every investor to the short end of the yield curve, which is the T-bill market, and create an impression that the T-bill that the government issues are oversubscribed, and that is an indication of confidence in the economy. And by so doing, artificially bring down the T-bill rate to the 19% we are seeing. And so the bond market is not attractive to investors. If they organize themselves well and put things right, you'll begin to see greater participation in the bond market and then have people participate in the bond market. But that is not the only avenue for government. Why is Mr. Setepe, the former finance minister, giving indication that this government is going to borrow $4.5 billion this year? What are they going to borrow the $4.5 billion for? From the international sources. So there are other markets open to government. Yet, because the finance minister intentionally decided to artificially push the T-bill rates down to create a certain false impression that Ghanaian T-bills are oversubscribed, and that is an indication of overconfidence. That is exactly what we are saying. That is why I raised the issues today. That the drop in the T-bill rates naturally should be something that should be commendable. But it must be seen to be in sync with the fundamentals of the economy. You have monetary policy rate at 27%, and you have inflation at 23%. If a treasurer or a bank participates in the T-bill market and government offers that bank or treasurer 19%, and the bank accepts, it means the real return of that treasurer is going to be negative. Which treasurer that wants to make profit will make investment into a venture that will give him or her a real return of the negative? But what is happening is that they have closed all the other avenues. So the treasuries and the banks do not have any other option than to go to the T-bill market. Other than that, it is the central bank that should be seen to be in the market, mopping up the excess liquidity. But because that is the core function of the central bank. And if the central bank is not reneging on his responsibilities of pursuing monetary policy and going to the open market, issuing the open market operation, which is the OMO, which is usually issued at 27 plus or minus 2%. So if the monetary policy rate is 27%, and the central bank decides to do OMO at 27 plus or minus 2%, that is going to be 25%. If the central bank is active on the market at that level, 25%, no investor will go and accept 19%. So you see that kind of artificial hand playing on the T-bill market because the finance minister wants to create a certain false impression that there's overconfidence in the economy, and I like it. When the Bank of Ghana governor last week raised eyebrows and cautioned the finance minister that the action he's taking on the T-bill market has consequential effects to cause exchange rate depreciation and by extension inflation. That is exactly what we're going to see. Because the investors do not have that assurance that the bond market is going to open up. And even if it opens up, they are not so much believing the fundamentals. And so they are not patronizing there. If government continues on this low rate at the T-bill markets, what they will do is that they will stay back and then begin to enter into the currency market. I can tell you, there are commercial banks that now, for 3 weeks running, they have never participated in the T-bills market. Give yourself 1 more month and let the finance minister begin this antics on the T-bill market that he's using to control both price and quantity. And you begin to see what will happen to the exchange rate. And that is why the governor of the central bank is part of this government. And he raised the issue during the dialogue. And what is happening with the finance minister and on the T-bill market may eventually bust and cost this country a lot. Now, if you look at the T-bill market, every week that the finance minister goes to the market, he borrows to exceed the target he sets for himself. You must begin to answer questions. What goes into the decision of the targeting? And why does the finance minister end up means what it